Hello, everyone, and welcome to Classic Gamer 74. I am your host, Anthony Gamer, and in today's episode, we're going to discuss the launch titles for the NES. First off, I want to say a great big hello and salutations to our new subscribers. It looks like we picked up quite a few within the last few videos, and welcome to the Classic Gamer 74 family. I also want to thank you guys for the large number of views for the music video I did for Bad Apple using the heavy metal version, and for the growing number of likes and subscribers. It really makes me feel great. Please continue to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel. Now today we're going to talk about the 17 launch titles that were made for the NES. Now, a launch title is a little bit different than a pack-in title. Let me explain the difference between the two. I used to think they were the same thing, but then I found out later they weren't. A pack-in title is a game that comes with the system when you purchase it. 9 times out of 10, most game consoles, when purchased brand new, will have a game that comes with it, which makes perfect sense. If you're going to buy somebody a game console, they're going to have games to play with it, right? Well, launch title is a little different. These were games that were released at the same time as the game system itself. Generally, one of those titles is the pack-in title, and there are times when you actually can't purchase the pack-in title separately. You would actually have to get it exclusively with the console, but that was kind of a rare thing. Now, when the NES was released in North America on October 18th, 1985, it would have 17 launch titles. Now, that was more than any other before that. The Atari 2600 had 9. The Bally Astrocade, that many people forgot, had 2. The Intellivision had 4. The ColecoVision had 12. The Atari 5200 had 4. And even when the Famicom itself was actually launched in Japan in 1983, it only had 3. So today we're going to talk about all 17 of the NES launch titles. So without further ado, let's get into the games. And of course, we have to start off this list with the pack-in game, and probably one of the most recognizable games for the NES, and that is Super Mario Brothers. In this game, you take on the role of Mario or Luigi, and it is your job to rescue Princess Toadstool from the evil Bowser. You have 8 worlds to go through. It's a really fun platformer game and really sets the stage for other platformer games that would follow. And on the same cart, you would have Duck Hunt. Now, this was a light gun game, as the light gun was packed in with the NES along with 2 controllers. And this game is pretty self-explanatory. You are shooting at ducks, and when you shoot those ducks, that little dog will lift them up for you. If you miss the ducks, he'll laugh at you, and unfortunately you can't shoot the dog. But it's a really fun game, and unfortunately it's one that you cannot play on modern televisions. Same with all the other light gun games. Although I've heard that there have been some mods made. I haven't tried them out yet, but really had a lot of fun playing this game with my dad. And next up we have Excite Bike. Now, in this game you are racing on a motorcycle. Now, you're not racing against other opponents, you're actually racing against the clock. Now, as time goes on, the tracks get more and more difficult, and the amount of time that you have to complete each race gets more difficult. You can set it where you can have computer opponents, but you're not actually racing against them. As a matter of fact, they're a big hindrance, and you can actually create your own tracks. Really a fun game that I had hours and hours of fun playing, and so did many of my friends. Next up, we have Baseball. Now, this could be 1 or 2 players, and basically it's baseball. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, with all the other sports games, there weren't any actual teams, real licensed teams, I should say. That would come a little bit later on. But if you liked a regular game of baseball, this is one that you would enjoy, either playing by yourself or with a friend. Next up we have Ice Climber. Now this is the ultimate platformer game. If this isn't, nothing is. As you are this little man trying to get to the top of this mountain, and you have a hammer to knock out ice and stuff that's blocking you on the way up. Not a bad game, not really memorable, but yet in itself kind of unique. The graphics are pretty cool, the controls are smooth. Really not a bad game. Next up we have 10-Yard Fight, which is a pretty cool game of football. Now, like the other sports games, there are no professional teams here, but you can set the difficulty from a high school team all the way up to a Super Bowl quality team. 1 or 2 players, pretty cool football game overall. Not the best I've seen, but by far not the worst. Overall, I'd have to say this is probably one of the smoothest football games up to this point. Next up we have Clu-Clu Land. You are a sea urchin named Bubbles, and you're trying to retrieve underwater treasure. Mostly gold bars, like a heart or a mushroom. It's kind of a cool maze-like game. Look out for the evil fish that are trying to stop you, and try to avoid the black hole. Not a bad game. It's not really one that I played as a kid. Actually, I didn't discover it until recently. I didn't play it. I don't think any of my friends had it either, but really it's not a bad game. Give it a try. Next up we have Golf, or Nintendo Golf. Hey, is that Mario there? That's never actually been established, but it's typical 18 holes of golf. Not a bad game, actually. It's quite addictive, as I just love golf games. It uses the 3-tap method that was pretty much the standard at that time. Not a bad game. Definitely not one of the worst golf games, although it's kind of hard to screw up a golf game. Actually, Atari and Magnavox Odyssey 2 did that, but overall it's a really fun game, and for those that are just getting into golf or just getting into golf games, this is a pretty cool game to start off with. Once you get the hang of the controls and you figure out what you're doing, it's not half bad. Although I will warn you, you have to figure out yourself which clubs to use, so just keep that in mind. Alright, next up we have Gyromite. Now this was a game that was used with Rob, the robotic operating buddy. Yeah, and I've talked about that enough, so I'm not going to go into that again, but you can actually play this game without Rob's help. Now, you are a scientist and you are trying to escape. You really can't fight back against these enemy birds. The only thing you could do is squish them with those cylinders that move up and down, and in theory, Rob is supposed to help you make them go up and down, but you can do it yourself without having to spend lots of money and time and patience with Rob. Overall, not a bad game, not extremely memorable, but very unique. Next up we have Hogans Alley. This is another light gun game where you are shooting at targets. Just make sure you don't shoot the innocent people. It's kind of like a actual shooting version of Bank Panic. If you remember that game, I talked about that a long time ago. But overall, it's a fun game that works with your hand-eye coordination and quick decision making. Overall, a pretty cool game. Next up, we have Kung Fu. This game is allegedly based on a Jackie Chan movie. I'm not sure, but you take on the role of this Kung Fu fighter, and you're trying to rescue your girlfriend from these bad guys. You walk around and kick and punch people. Pretty cool game. A little harder than you think it is, but once you get the hang of it, it's not half bad. It's actually a lot of fun and kind of funny. Next up, we have Pinball. This is pretty self-explanatory. I'm a sucker for pinball. It's kind of a family tradition. I own 2 machines myself. This one has 2 different tables, 1 to 2 players, and it's a pinball machine. Pretty soon here I'm going to have a whole series on pinball games, so be on the lookout for that. Really cool game. I loved video pinball for Atari 2600, and this one was even better, and the games just kept getting better as time went on. But like I said, it's pinball, so I'm gonna love it. Next up, we have tennis. You can choose from either singles or doubles, and you have a difficulty level. It's tennis. It's not that exciting, but still, it's not the worst tennis game out there, and there's some bad ones, some good ones, and I'm going to be talking about some tennis games here shortly as well, too, but not a bad one. Definitely not as much fun as Activision's tennis, but, I have yet to play another tennis game that is that much fun, excluding the Mario ones, of course. We have another light gun game with Wild Gunman. This one is really a lot of fun. You are shooting at these bad guys. You can either have one outlaw, two outlaw, or a whole gang of them. Overall, it's a really fun game and one I had a lot of fun playing, and I'm sure you will too. And next up, we have Wrecking Crew. This is one of the lesser known Mario games, as you take on the role of Mario and or Luigi, and you are basically destroying this building. It's a lot of fun, and you have these enemies coming after you. I really enjoyed it. How can you not? You're just going around breaking stuff. It's really a lot of fun, and like I said, not one of the most talked about Mario games out there, but yet one that really you will have a blast playing. And last but not least, we have soccer. It's soccer. Yeah. You pick the country, and I don't think that really makes a big difference. You can set the difficulty, the amount of time each half takes, and it's a football game. The controls themselves I'm not too crazy about. Personally, I think it would have been better to have just a pass and a kick button, but not the worst soccer game out there by any stretch of the imagination. As if you know anything about soccer games, or as Kim Justice calls them, footy games, there's some bad ones out there, but fortunately this is one of the good ones. It's simplistic, but yet it's still a pretty fun soccer game. In our next episode, we're going to talk about another one of my favorite NES games, and that is Super Dodgeball. We're also going to talk about some of the different ports of it, as yes, this was originally an arcade game, so you will not want to miss that. Well, that brings this episode of Classic Gamer 74 to a close. I really hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, let me know by giving me a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so you'll be notified when I upload any new videos. Thank you again for sticking to the end. I really appreciate it. Also, connect with me on all my social media platforms. Check out my Patreon. And until next time, I will see you all in the next episode. Have yourselves a great week. Bye for now.